When Tony went to pick this up, the engine light came on straight away. Now, of course, the owner knew nothing about it. Oh God, I've got smoke everywhere. And whoever has spec'd this car has absolutely nailed the brief and then forgotten some really, really important stuff. Here's up!
Welcome to Yorkshire, a place I call home. Pretty, isn't it? Well, today that pretty countryside is going to meet the rugged charm of this 2008 Porsche Cayenne GTS. I'm Rob, I'm a car dealer, and this particular Cayenne has just come into me as a part exchange. It is a bold statement of engineering, but let's just say it's got some issues. The Porsche Cayenne GTS, with its potent V8 and its signature Porsche handling, had a reputation for redefining performance SUVs, but like many cars of its age, it is not without its problems. Today we will look at what makes this Cayenne so special, what challenges come with it, and whether or not it's still worth the attention of enthusiasts, namely me.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to the channel, and thank you for joining me. If you've subscribed, thank you for subscribing. And a big thank you to the chap who stopped me in BP Garage this morning. Sorry I didn't get your name. You're driving a white Seat Leon or Ibiza, and you stopped to say that you watch the channel and you enjoy the content. So, genuine, I can't tell you how good I felt about that. I know I kept it really cool and composed, but inside I was doing little cartwheels. Thank you, mate. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. Today's a bit of a different one. I am driving a 2008 Porsche Cayenne, or Porsche Cayenne, depending on which part of the country that you're in. This is a GTS 957. Now, this car came in on part exchange, and you'll notice this morning that I'm slightly rosy-cheeked, and that is because I am basking in the glow of a check engine light. Because it is, of course, a part exchange. So it's, of course, got issues that has been stuffed into the dealer. Now, this car's been sat outside for a number of months, and I've been wondering what to do with it. We've plugged it in, we know what the problem is, and essentially it needs a MAF sensor, or a pair of them. They're not an expensive job. I've not given a huge amount of money for the car. It's about a 10 grand car retail, and I'm kind of looking at it thinking, do I maybe want this for myself? Because I used to drive a Porsche Cayenne 957. It was in like a grey silver colour, but it was the diesel variant. They are totally different animals. So today, what I'm going to do is talk you through a little bit of the history about a Porsche Cayenne, why you might want to buy one, and why you might not want to buy one, because there are plenty of reasons on both camps. So let's just start with the Porsche Cayenne and a little bit of the history. So these were first brought out in 2002. They initially brought out the Cayenne S and the Turbo. Now, I can't help but think that that shape of car has not aged well at all. It was a bit of an ugly duckling. And when they first brought it out, there's a huge amount of controversy about it. Some people didn't like it. It looked a bit like a pig, etc., etc. And genuinely, I don't think it's aged that well. They then, in 2008, brought out the facelift. This, of course, being the facelift version. And by God, isn't it a handsome brute now? I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I think it's aged really, really well. Now, there are a few big Achilles heels on the Cayenne. I mean, there's different variants of this generation. There's a 3-litre diesel, which I own myself. Brilliant car, great engine, fuel economy hours averaging about 27 to the gallon. Then they've got the 4.8 litre GTS, and then they've got the 4.8 litre turbo. Now the GTS has got 400 horsepower, which sounds like a huge amount of power in a car, but when something weighs 2.5 tons, it really isn't the fastest thing in the world. However, it sounds absolutely phenomenal. For example. Now for me, I think the GTS sounds better than the Turbo because, of course, when you put a turbo on a car, you take some of those exhaust gases away, and unfortunately you take away a little bit of the flavour, a bit of the spice, a bit of the sound So for me, I prefer a naturally aspirated engine. One of the best engines ever made was the 6.2 litre naturally aspirated engine, which you find in the Mercedes-Benz AMG. And this car's kind of got a little bit of that kind of essence of rawness to it. I really, really like the way it sounds. Now, you can do a modification on these with the exhaust pipes, where essentially they've got like a vacuum. And what it does is when you put it in sport mode, it opens up the valves, and when you take it out, it closes the valves. We've got rid of that. That was the first thing that we did. You literally pull them off and put a zip tie around them so nothing gets sucked up. So that was one of the first things that I've done, and it does sound absolutely glorious. Now, the Cayenne has obviously continued to evolve over time. However, there is an argument that the sweet spot was indeed this very model. And the reason for that is because as they've kind of evolved, they've gone more and more towards a road car rather than an off-road car. Whereas this one, they really, really went for it. They were very proud of the fact that it had great off-road capabilities. And it is good. We're going to have a bit of a trial on that later on, actually. So this car has got centre differential lock. It's also got a low-range gearbox. And it's also got something called PDCC, which is Porsche Dynamic Chassis Control. Now, PDCC essentially means that it has got adaptive anti-roll bars. So when you are off-roading, it will actually dislocate the anti-roll bar, as far as I can read, and allow you to spin different wheels. It really, really is clever technology, and you've got to think this is 15 years ago. Now, sadly, what they decided to do when they brought out the new models is they got away of the off-road stuff, and they were more bothered about making a Chelsea tractor. And I think they've nailed the brief very well on that one. However, for a purist, this could well be the model to buy. So let's talk about this particular example that's come into stock. Now, this car came into stock against a BMW XM, which is a 4.4 litre V8 turbo, an absolute weapon of a car. Now, it came in against that car, and I did think at the time I probably was going to trade straight out of it. But unfortunately, when Tony went to pick this up, the engine light came on straight away. Now, of course, the owner knew nothing about it, and unfortunately, the deal was he was going to get it sorted out. Subsequently, the engine light on the car we sold him came on. So we ended up paying for that, and we did a bit of a deal where he paid a bit towards it and we just kind of ignored it. So we know what the fault is. Spec is really important on cars, and whoever has spec'd this car has absolutely nailed the brief and then forgotten some really, really important stuff. So when I'm thinking about having this as my own personal car, there are certain things that for me are a bit of a deal breaker. When you buy an expensive car, there are certain things that you expect it to have, pretty much as standard. So let's talk about the good stuff. This car has got a host of extras. This is Alcantara. I don't know if it's an extra, but it's nice. I thought I'd mention it. It has got the air suspension on it so you can adjust the ride height. A lot of them came on coil springs, which is a really, really nice thing to have. My previous Porsche didn't have it. And the drive difference is totally, totally different. It absorbs everything on the road, which it needs to do because this car is sat on 21-inch turbo wheels. Now, that's an optional extra, and for me, I actually prefer the GTS wheels, but anyway, beggars can't be choosers. 'Tis a part exchange. It also benefits from the panoramic sunroof. Now, this sunroof is a work of art in its own right, and I almost daren't open it because it is a 15-year-old car, and you just know that that is going to be a problem at some point, but look at it, it's absolutely beautiful. The car also benefits from heated wing mirrors. It's got the half Alcantara, half leather seats. It has got Bluetooth, which I know sounds ridiculous, but my last one didn't have Bluetooth. You can pair your phone up with it. It's an option. Sat nav, it's an option. It's got lots and lots of really nice stuff on this. Tow bar, option. The thing that's upsetting me most, heated seats you would think would be included in that option list. No. Whoever bought this car decided that they're going to spend thousands. It's probably got 20 grand's worth of options on this car and not tick the heated seat button. That could well be a deal breaker for me. However, I'm going to try and look past it. The other thing that would have been nice to see on this is Bose, because that is a really good stereo system, and the standard system on this is pretty poor at best. But you can listen to Radio 2 and you can listen to Jeremy Vine whinging about immigrants. Now, I loved my previous car, had it for 2.5 years. It's actually one of the longest periods of time I've owned a car for, and I really enjoyed driving it. And there's certain things about it that they probably didn't think about at the time that have actually been really helpful. So, for example, there's a perfect spot here for putting your phone. Because let's face it, although they've got navigation, they are rubbish. So you can have your Google Maps up there and you're not touching your phone. So I really like that about it. There are some other things that I really didn't enjoy. They are a big thing. There's no getting around it that these are quite a large vehicle. I actually took a wing mirror off another car in mine because I got overly confident. And I think the problem with it is because they handle really well, they make you think that you're in a smaller car, but actually it's quite big. It's got parking sensors front and rear. They are somewhat oversensitive at times. However, it's not the end of the world. It's got good visibility in here and it's a decent car to drive. The gearbox is absolutely shit. I'm going to bleep over that. There's no other word for it. Unfortunately, this is one of the older Tiptronic gearboxes, and it is woeful at best. The gear changes are sluggish. You want a gear and it'll go, okay, I'll give you the gear now. It thinks about it for far too long, and it never seems to be where you want it to be. They did offer a manual gearbox variant on one of these, but they are really, really hard to come by. And arguably, would you actually want a manual in a big 4x4? Potentially not. There's an absolute ton of boot space. I love the fact that the tailgate is split folding as well, so you can just open the top bit and throw your shopping in there. They've really thought about a lot of things with this car. And also, I've said it before and I've said it again, Porsche make the comfiest seats. There's a little bit of a straight here, and it's a 60 mile an hour zone. I'm going to talk you through the gearbox, what I mean by it. So I'm going to put it into sport now. We're in D5. It's thought about, it'll go for fourth. Let's give it some pillock and see how long it takes it to go second. Oh, it's quite quick actually. It picks up at the top of the rev range. I actually take it all back. It went to second gear really quickly there, didn't it? Why would it do that all of a sudden? Now, the other thing I'm enjoying about this particular car is that it appears to be self-healing. So the engine light was on when we first bought it, and then when we came out to do the filming this morning, it decided it was going to delete itself, which I was rather pleased about. And then I did a wheel spin and it's back. So I had a Vauxhall Nova that used to do this. It reminds me of that. You'd have a problem with the car, and if you drove it long enough, that problem would go away. Or at least the light would eventually just turn off or die on its own accord. So I'm quite enjoying that about it as well. Right, so there is the Achilles heel with this thing, and unfortunately this is the reason why I'm thinking, could I actually own this car? So genuinely, I am going to be, at some point a family man, it is coming, it is brewing, she's getting rather large and round, and I need to start thinking about what we're doing. Now, my missus loves a Porsche Cayenne, genuinely loves it. We've been offered one recently on part exchange. It's a 2019 turbo. It's going to be about 70 grand. She's been making noise about that, and she can take a running jump. Anyway, I'm now looking at this one that's worth about 10, maybe put her in it. The problem with this car is, as good as it sounds and as good as it looks, it is woeful on fuel. Would you like to know what I've averaged? And I have been trying to be good, to be fair, so let's get into the computer now and have a quick flick through. So I put £120 into this car the other day to begin the road testing. When I say the other day, that was 3 days ago, and I've done 130 miles since. I have used half of a tank, which in my mind, in Yorkshire man maths, is 50p a mile, and that is quite frankly unforgivable. So we have averaged, when you look in the computer, 14 miles to the gallon, and that is not okay. Now, I think the turbo is actually worse, but logically, with it having a turbocharger, you're not having to give it too much pillock. I think it's probably better to use long term, whereas this, you've got to really rev it out to get to any power. The annual tax is also a big problem. You are not getting much change from £70 a month if you want to do it on a direct debit. It's pretty expensive, to say the least. So actually the running costs of this car are pretty scary. Now, build quality is pretty good. It's 15 years old. There's a couple of little squeaks in the back there. I'm sure you can hear them on the camera. But overall, you don't feel like you're in a car that's really, really old. It drives well. It feels nice and tight. Everything about it makes you feel like you're in a nice place to be. So long term, I think I could live with it. It's just whether or not I could stomach those fuel costs. So this Cayenne is meant to be good at off-road. I found a nice Ford for us to go through, so I'm going to switch it into off-road, so terrain level, traction control off, PDCC should work, and I think it should automatically put a diff lock on the car as well. And then we're going to try and navigate the Ford. It's quite deep, this. There we go. We're up, we've got diff lock on. Now this car raises to give you 20 inches of ground clearance, which is pretty good. So let's squeeze through here. I'm doing this purely for YouTube. It is a narrow track, this, and this is this when you realise just how big these things are. So I'm hoping. Oh, we're squeezing through. Ooh. Oh, it doesn't look as deep as I thought, actually. Yes, we are in water. It's a lot bouncier in water than you might think. Oh God, I've got smoke everywhere. That's because we've just driven like absolute prats to get here. She's up. driver from the Cayenne there. He just does everything. Now turn the parking sensors off because they are most annoying. We're actually in a rush back because we've got a car going out this afternoon. And instead I'm doing this for your viewing pleasure. Oh, black paint is going to end up absolutely shagged. Oh, it's got everything that you need. It's so high, it just absolutely munches all of these potholes. Let's see if we can get the wheels spin up. I think I want to keep it based on, I'm going to wait for Callum to come back because he was filming that, bless him. I think I want to keep it now. What I'm wanting to do with this, and I know I shouldn't want to do this because I should be a mature gentleman by now, but I'd really like to put some big knobbly off-road tyres on it because a lot of people are starting to overland these cars, and you can see the way that they just tackled that, why they're doing it. Hello, Callum.
Hello.
So now we're going to head back and sell this car, hopefully. And I'll continue with the review once we've done that. So we've sold the car, which is absolutely great news, and I would just like to point out, whilst I was in the office, I was looking through that video of it wading through the Ford, and I was expecting the water to be up here. A little bit embarrassing, that, really. I don't know why water looks so much deeper than it is when you're not in it. But anyway, I think that means we're going to have to road test this properly off-road. It was interesting to see how it tackled getting up that hill and through all the muddy stuff, etc. But I do want to apologise. I thought that Ford was deeper, and I thought that content was going to be a little bit more exciting. Yeah, just sold a Mini Cooper, John Cooper Works, green with a red roof, and everybody said, don't buy that, Rob, it's green with a red roof. Sold. There's a bump for every seat. Couple of things I just wanted to talk about briefly is the reliability on these things. So as I say, I had ran one for quite some time. The only issues I had with that car was the prop shaft bearing. Now that is, or it was at the time, we're talking a number of years ago, it was about an £80 part. It was really, really easy to fit as well. And genuinely, other than that, there was no other issues. The only other problem I had was self-inflicted, and that is because I decided in the snow once to do some donuts, and unfortunately ended up snapping a coil spring. However, it did make some great footage, which I'll show you now. Other than that, it treated me very, very well indeed. So with reliability, the diesels are great. The petrols were worse. So the old 4.5 litre V8 had its issues, and some of them were fairly catastrophic. They made a load of changes on the 4.8, and it is overall a fairly reliable engine. Obviously we've got issues with the MAF sensors here. You're always going to have electronic issues with German cars. It's just the way that it is, but there's nothing scary when you look online. So long as they are well maintained, there's nothing that kind of jumps off the page as this is a big problem on these engines. So I think overall it's not an unsafe place to be having a 4.8 or a 4.8 turbo. So I guess that leads us to a bit of a point, doesn't it, really? Would I have this? Is it the sort of thing that I'd want to run on a daily basis? And I guess it's a really difficult one because I love, love, love the sound of that engine. It is a lovely, lovely sounding thing. I think I prefer it to the sound of the turbo, but I do think the turbo's probably a better car in many ways. Change gear. I am constantly thinking about the fuel economy in this car because it is particularly bad. I mean, to get 14 miles to the gallon is bad. And I know we've been road testing it fairly hard, but even when I was driving it around and being really, really frugal, I was still getting 16 or so. However, for the money that the car owes me, it's sort of asking to be made into a bog bus, isn't it? So I've wanted for years to put a big set of knobbly tyres on one of these and drive it off-road and do some really good, fun activities in it. And I do need a car that's going to be suitable for my darling missus when we've got a baby seat. So it probably ticks a lot of boxes for a lot of reasons, but that fuel economy is painful because I'm paying for that. When she's not working, I'm paying for that fuel. And I do wonder whether or not putting big knobbly tyres on it is going to ruin the car. Apologies if the sun's in your eyes there. So I guess the question really is, should you buy yourself a Porsche Cayenne? Yes, In a word, if you are happy to be driving around in a big 4x4 and you want a 4x4, I do think it is the best option on the SUV market. Would I buy a 4.8 litre one? I don't know, the jury's out on that one. I'm the biggest petrol head on the planet, in my opinion, obviously, and I'm still struggling to justify that fuel economy. However, it sounds good, and if you're not doing a load of miles, you can get them cheaper than a diesel. Maybe it makes sense to do it. The crossroads I'm at now is I don't know whether or not to turn this into a big off-roader, which I'm dying to do and I've wanted to do for years, or whether or not to just run it as a normal car, be a sensible guy, and just sort of calm down a little bit. And I think we know what's going to happen because I have been speaking to people about wheels and tyres. Ooh, that's on big knobbly tyres. Oh no, Rob. You've got a car you would like me to review, I'd love to. I love what I do for a job. I love the car sales. It's all going really well. We're very happy most of the time. Don't watch my videos, but I am really, really passionate about cars. If you've got something interesting you want me to show on the channel, I'd absolutely love to. So by all means, shout out. If you've not subscribed, please do subscribe. Please turn the bell icon on, all the usual sort of jazz. Thank you again for joining me, and until next time, cheers.